Welcome to Khetz and in this video I'll be talking about dictionaries. So just continuing the Python for Beginners series. Where we left off, we're talking about sets, but now in this video I want to talk about dictionaries. So let's create that new file, dictionaries.py. Press enter. Now I have our new file, and so let's start discussing dictionaries. So far, in terms of collections, we've been talking about lists, tuples, and sets. Dictionaries also fall under collections, but there is a slight, if not major, difference. So let's start discussing these. Dictionaries have key value pairs. So if you recall, when dealing with lists, we just listed whatever it is that we wanted to have in the list. That applied to tuples as well. And finally with sets. So we just mentioned a bunch of stuff, but we didn't mention what each of the items were. So now dictionaries give us the capability to actually identify what we're dealing with. So to define a dictionary, you'll have a name, then say equal, then have a curly brace. Just for visibility, you can write them like this, but feel free to write them going this way and not going down. And what are these things that we're actually writing in here? These are key value pairs. And now the key explains what is stored at a certain position. Let's say you have name, for example. Then the value would be the name. Let's say Khetz. And that is what you'd have over there. So you have these key value pairs in a dictionary, something which describes what you're storing. So we're storing Khetz, but what is Khetz? Khetz is a name. So the key is a description, and the value is the actual value or what we actually associate the name with. So we have these key value pairs either going down or to the side. It's totally up to you how you format this. So let's get right into an implementation of a dictionary. Let's use a student, for example. We have a student and we might have a bunch of attributes, and attributes are just characteristics that we might want to associate with the student. So I started with the name, and you can go ahead and skip a line or just start there. It's totally up to you. This is just for visibility. So name, and you have this colon, then you have the name of the student. You already had this. And now before you list any other attribute or before you list any other key value pair, so if you look at this, we have a key, we have a value. So that is a key value pair. That is what we refer to as a key value pair. I'm going to put a comma to separate the next one. So as I said, you can either go like this, so surname, for example, and have your colon, then continue to write surname of the student. Now you can go to the right or downwards. I just prefer going downwards because it's easier to identify each of these and it's easier to read. So now you're going to put a comma because we're just about to add another key value pair. So now if you notice, the keys are strings or they have quotation marks around them. These can be single or double quotation marks. It doesn't really matter. But as you will see with the next attribute or the next key value pair, the value can be any variable type or it can take any type. So the key has to be a string, but the value can be anything. So here we have an integer, for example. So the age is a string, which is a key, but the value is an integer, which is 16 for the age. Since we're about to add two more, let's add two more. You can add as many attributes or as many key value pairs as necessary. That is totally up to you and what you choose to use the dictionary for. And you can skip, you can have a space if you want to have it like that. You don't necessarily have to have these things touching. So that's totally up to you as well. And the height in meters, we can write it, then as the height, then comma, write the last attribute. And just to show that the value can take any data type, we're going to have a list over here for marks to list a bunch of marks for a specific subject. If this is associated with a specific subject, it's just an example, right? So this is a student, and the student has the following attributes. and we were able to give some information. This just makes sense if you just look at it, right? It makes sense. You can try to figure out what we're actually doing by just reading this. That is the beauty of dictionaries. So now you'd see that we have a student, we have a descriptive name, and we have an equal sign. Then we have these curly braces just like with sets, but the difference being that inside we have key value pairs. So what do we have? We have a name. What is the name? That is the value, key value, and so on. So this is how you define a dictionary, and we can go ahead and print this dictionary. So use the variable name and say that we want to print student. So that is the name of our dictionary at this point. That is what we're going to print. Just skip a line and run this. Okay, let's wait a bit for it to run. And we expect to have all of these attributes over here at the output or at the terminal. So as it runs, you'd see that it has name, Khetz, surname, tutorials, age 16, height, that marks. That is exactly what we wrote. And if you notice that this is exactly in the order that we defined these. So as of Python 3.7, dictionaries are actually ordered. So you expect this same order at the output, in comparison to sets, which basically scramble the things around and you aren't really sure what will come out of the output. So these are dictionaries. This is how you define them, and they're quite cool because you can actually make sense of what you're doing. And if you want to confirm that this is indeed a dictionary, you're just going to say type around the variable name and print that. So if you run that, it says class that, which is short for dictionary. And if you want to find the length of your dictionary, just replace type with len, just like we've always done. And this will count the number of key value pairs that we have. So if you look at this, we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and the answer is 5. That is what expected in the output. So now the question now comes, and that question would be, how do we access each of these? Or what exactly can we access from a dictionary? So since we have key value pairs, it's much easy to find what we're looking for. But here's the difference. All along, for lists and tuples, we've been using indices, and those indices were numbers, right? So that we can access a specific element. So for lists, if you want to access a specific element, you just mention the index of that element. But now with dictionaries, what you do is, let's say we wanted to find the age, we wanted to extract the age. What you do is you write the name of the variable, which is student. Then you'd have the same square braces, but now you'd put the name of the key. So now the key, you use the key to access the value. We want to access 16. And so we use the key to say that we want to get the value which is associated with the key age. That is how you access elements. And that is what we expected as our result, because age is associated with 16. So now, in terms of duplicates, if you ever have a duplicate, the duplicate will basically update what you had previously. And before we talk about duplicates, let's talk about insertion. So if you want to insert into this dictionary, there are two ways that you can do that. The first being that if you want to insert something which is not there, well, that is what insertion means basically. You're putting in something which is not there. You'd mention that you have a student, which is the name of the variable. Then you'd list a key which is not currently available. So let's say, for example, you want to have the subject added to the student variable. This is what you do. Subject is not there, so this is not accessing the key or the value that is associated with subject because it's not there. So we're actually creating it, or we are inserting it. So I just write Python. This is what we're learning. And if I print this variable, or if I print this dictionary again, you'll see that we now have subject right at the end, which is Python. That is what we expected. Another way that you can use to insert is you can use update. And this allows you to insert more than just one key value pair. So you're going to have round braces, then you're going to have curly braces inside. And in here, you're going to have a similar approach to this, where you have key value pairs separated by a comma. So you can have as many key value pairs as you want in here. And all of those should be inserted into your dictionary. So let's use that subject example once again, Python, and let's have year, the year the student is enrolled, 2022. And if I run this, then I expect to have an updated dictionary. And running that, let's see what we have. So we have subject Python year 2022. So you can update the dictionary to have as many insertions as you want just by mentioning these key value pairs. So you can either use insert, which is not a direct function, just basically accessing, or just specifying what you want to insert. So that is the first one that you can use to insert stuff. And the second one will be this one over here. This is not what we want to insert. I was just showing that that is where you'd put your value. And we have this second method, which we've now explored, where you have a list of key value pairs, as many as you want to insert, and we confirm that by printing out this result over there with our updated dictionary. So now let's talk about duplicates. So if you happen to insert something which was already there, so let's erase this and say marks, and let's update it to say that the new marks are 81, 86, and 99. And let's just erase all of that is remaining, because we only want to have this. Now, what will happen when you introduce duplicates is these marks will be updated, and it will not have a separate key value pair for marks. So you won't expect to have marks, but just one key value pair associated with marks, but it will have these updated values. So this is basically an update. And if you look at that, you have marks 81, 86, 99. So that is how dictionaries deal with duplicates. They don't allow you to have duplicates in the same definition. It is just going to update the key value pair to the latest version, right? So we've dealt with quite a few things: how to find the length of the dictionary, how to define the dictionary, how to confirm the type, accessing elements, inserting, and now let's talk about deletion. If you want to delete something in a dictionary, here's how you'd go about doing it. So you can use the famous pop, and the only difference with this one is you have to specify the key that you want to delete, and you can also optionally specify what you'd want this function to return, or what you'd want this function to tell you if what you're trying to delete is not in there, and we'll explore that briefly. So now let's just write none for now, which means that it shouldn't return anything if it fails to delete surname. So if you look at that, it didn't fail to delete surname, so surname is not in there anymore. And we can now explore this pop function. Now, if you don't have that return parameter and you try to delete something which is not in the dictionary like this, you expect to get an error, right? So that is what you have over there. But if you specify what it must return, if it doesn't have the subject, then you won't get an error, right? So that is the only difference. So it didn't delete subject because there is no key value pair associated with subject, and the error was stopped by this none value that was specified over there. So you can, if you want to look deeper into this, you can just go ahead and look at that. Another way that you can use to delete is using the DEL, which is short for delete keyword, and you do this, mention the name of the variable and specify the key that you'd want to delete. So this says delete everything which is associated with marks. And let's explore that. Let's look at that. And if we run that and basically deleting marks. Now with this one, if the value is not present or if it's not in the dictionary, let's see what happens. So subject is not in there, and that is why we have that error over there, right? So it's pretty much the same or it's similar to the other one. So this is all that I wanted to talk about with regards to dictionaries, how to define a dictionary, what it is, understanding key value pairs, how to insert, finding the type, the length of the dictionary, how to delete items from a dictionary, and there are many useful uses for this type of collection variable. And that concludes the 4 collections in Python. In the next video, we'll just be continuing with the series and talking about some other functions as well as things which you can use along with collections and new topics as well. So if you found the video useful, just give it a thumbs up. If you haven't subscribed, please consider subscribing, and I'll see you in the next video.